Hey everybody, this is Kerry Martell, the Yamhill advocate, with an update regarding the attempt by a Newburgh City Councilor, Elise Hollamon, to have me arrested for reporting on what she said during a public meeting. So, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office has made a statement. I also had a personal phone call being told that they were going to be dropping the incident. So, the official statement is on November 3rd, Yamhill County Sheriff's Office was asked by the Newburgh-Dundee Police Department to investigate a report that Kerry Martell, publisher and editor of the Yamhill Advocate, had. It's kind of a word that means like secretly, surreptitiously recorded a conversation between he and Newburgh City Councilor Elise Yarnell. I'm not really sure why she's going by Yarnell here. Because she's married. Her last name is actually Hollamon, and being married, she's not a Ms. But in any case, following a public forum meeting at Newburgh High School, the public meeting had been held to discuss the proposal of a school-based public wellness center. Actually, it was discussing the existing center that was actually, has been operating out of the high school for at least a year, if not 2 years. It's kind of hard because of COVID. But in any case, I'm just clarifying here. Like the police, apparently, the sheriff department doesn't have all the facts, clearly. The conversation between Mr. Martell and Ms. Yarnell was reported as occurring after the formal conclusion of the public forum meeting when other speakers and guests were leaving. An officer with the Newburgh-Dundee Police Department witnessed the 5-10 minute conversation between Mr. Martell and Ms. Yarnell. Of course, that's also not 100% accurate. As far as I'm concerned, the meeting was still going on. People are still there. They are talking. And what's going on, basically, is that during the panel asked a number of questions of panelists, including Holland, and instead of answering the questions, she wanted to debate the content of my newspaper. Actually, she said, like, we couldn't move forward with the presentation until everybody gets to vent their frustrations about my reporting, which was bizarre. After the presentation had finished, and during like this sort of open sort of town hall forum where people were just chatting with each other, she decided to approach me of her own volition, and basically try to continue that argument with me. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's a continuation. And because she admitted to something that I regard to, be related to my accusations against the Yamhill County Democrat Party engaging in campaign finance law violations, it's a matter of public interest, very clearly. Public place, public meeting, public official, matter of public interest. Political party, potentially engaging in campaign finance law violations by, trying to hide their activity through this social activist group that Hollamon is part of. So, very clearly it is protected by First Amendment, irregardless of whatever they believe that the laws of Oregon claim. It's definitely protected at the federal level. Continuing on here. Oregon Revised Statute 165.540, obtaining contents of communications, was the relevant Oregon law considered during the investigation. As part of the investigation, both Mr. Martell and Ms. Yarnell were interviewed by the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office detectives. Audio, video, as well as online social media evidence was reviewed. Final report was submitted to the District Attorney's Office for review. Criminal prosecution was declined. Case example of the justice system, its protocols, systems in place being properly utilized by law enforcement and the public to resolve a reported incident. I'm assuming that the public probably applies to me and might also apply to other people who had expressed a lot of concern. So I put the video up, the video of the security footage of the deputies talking to me, and then a follow-up conversation about a week ago where they said that they were going to get a warrant for my arrest if I didn't present myself for citation. But it's my understanding that a number of people saw this. I mean, 165,000 people saw it, actually, so far. It's got over 1,000 comments. And a lot of them had contacted, I know this because people told me, who had commented on the video, and also personally emailed me, that they were contacting the department of, I think, both the DA and the sheriff department. There's a number of civil rights groups that reached out to me. So That's probably what I'm assuming that they're referring to. Would I agree that it's an example of the justice system? I think that I would. I would in the regards that, you have admittedly, in the deputy's defense, admittedly a very peculiarly written law that is easy to misinterpret, that a lot of people are very confused about, and that, to be honest, has a lot of additional, notes because of case law here in Oregon. There's been cases where it's been literally said, this is meant really for illegal, surveillance. It's not meant for actual conversations that are publicly being held. Certainly doesn't apply to public meetings. So it's easy to misunderstand. And of course, then in my situation is I'm not actually a resident of Oregon. So if they were to issue a citation, issue a warrant for my arrest, the first thing I would do is file for a removal from state court and put it directly into the federal court, the Ninth Circuit, which has already ruled that there is a First Amendment right to record public officials anywhere, at any time, as long as it's a matter of public interest, which the situation is. So, for those who are very interested, I really appreciate everybody's support that I've been shown. I appreciate the donations. I'll definitely be holding that stuff because I have a suspicion this is not going to be the end of their attempts to use the legal system to harass and try to punish me, basically, for exposing their schemes, their conspiracies, the fraud that I have been exposing through the Yamhill Advocate newspaper work that I have been doing. More importantly, there's a number of comments on this, right? There's 100-something comments, a lot of likes. There's a lot of controversy in the comments. But more importantly, really, we have Elise Hollamon's Facebook page, where she, as an actual official, a public official, make no mistake, she's clearly acting in her capacity as a public official here, okay, has made an actual statement about this. She says, "We cannot wait until someone is dead before we say, not in our town." This is, of course, directed at me, just include, in case you're wondering. It's directed at me. I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'll comment on it, okay? Instead of what I usually do is I break it down while I'm commenting. I'll read the whole thing, then I'll comment on it, okay? Her statement says, "On October 20th, I filed a complaint against an individual in our community for recording me in person without a visible recording device, without my consent, following a community meeting which I was operating for my place of work. The recording device was not visibly present. The recording was widely distributed, and the individual admitted to recording me unknowingly. As a private citizen filing a complaint of a state statute broken against me, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office and Newburgh Police Department have been attentive and have taken my concerns seriously. There has been misinformation that this event was related to my role as a city councilor. It was not. I attended the event in my private working professional role. In the last 36 hours, I have received multiple death threats, over 50 messages of threat, some stating staunch support for the individual I have filed a complaint against, and others warning me to drop my complaint or I will be handled. I have received these threats and hate messages to my city email, my personal cell phone, in person, on one occasion, and my elected official Facebook account. Following these death threats, I learned that the Yamhill County DA has decided not to take the case to court, announcing in a press release that the case has been declined. This has been explained as the difference between probable cause to arrest versus reasonable doubt to convict with a 12-person jury. This decision has caused a greater concern as the threats to my person are significant. The death threats provoked and the extreme harassment by this individual to myself and others in our community only renews my commitment to stand unequivocally against all forms of hate, as Andres Zelter regarding the violence and harassment from Gamergate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. What the hell does this have to do with anything? Gamergate? For those who don't know, Gamergate was 5-something years ago. It was a controversy within the video game journalism industry. It was specific to it. It has nothing to do with Newburgh. Continuing on what she's writing, she wrote an open letter. If you see threats of violence or harm, please take a minute to report them. If you see hateful or harassing speech, take a public stand against it. We can make our community a safer, more enjoyable space to be in. But first, we must call out those who do not believe that everyone, no matter what gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, or disability, has a right to exist without being harassed or threatened. I appreciate and thank our LEO teams for taking the current threats made against me seriously and helping take precautions for my family's safety. I pray for a time when human life matters more in this town than political posturing. It's still possible to move forward together. Sincerely yours in service, Elise Hollamon. And then she has a video here of people who have allegedly left messages harassing her. And I'm not going to play it only because I know for definite sure my account will definitely be flagged. This video will almost certainly be flagged on YouTube and on Facebook because I already listened to it. So what do I say to this? Okay, so first of all, obviously I have nothing to do with any sorts of threats. I have not made any threats against anyone else. I have not asked anybody else to make any threats against anybody else. I am completely against using violence to affect political change. That is the opposite of what I believe, and it's certainly not something that I would endorse. This has been said quite literally from the very first article that I wrote exposing the Progressive Yamhill group and its subgroup, Newburgh Equity and Education. And I've reiterated this several times as well, including, during, my interaction with Hollamon on voice camera. As I recall, she brought up that people had been threatening her. And I said, well, that's not me. That has nothing to do with me. So to suggest that, which it seems to be that she's suggesting that because I'm not being arrested, it's validating the threats. But the threats are completely unrelated to the fact that they're trying to illegally censor journalism that she doesn't like. Okay? It's wholly unrelated. The threats, if they exist, that needs to be handled by law enforcement, clearly, right? But here's the thing. Having heavily investigated this Progressive Yamhill group, reading through years of their postings, I have a very difficult time taking what they claim at face value. I just really do. They have an entire handbook and tons of training specifically to deceive the public. And false flag attacks is not beyond these people. I wouldn't put it past them. And in fact, it's my personal belief, especially because there, as far as I'm aware, has been no arrests about the alleged attack of the flag burning at a local teacher's town here, a house in Newburgh at like 2 a.m. in the morning after Halloween. There was a pride flag that was set on, barely set on fire, to be honest. And then the person who did it, all covered up, completely head to toe, happened to know exactly where the porch camera was and went in front of it and did the Hail Hitler salute, right? What hadn't been said, but what I had learned from tips, is that as soon as that person had set fire to the flag that night, another person who just happened to be walking around at that time of night came over and put out the fire very quickly. And that person, I believe, is a Progressive Yamhill person. So I'm not going to go into much more detail there, but that is what I have learned. So I think that there is definitely a motivation. It seems strange to me that every time that the Progressive Yamhill people get heavily criticized, all of a sudden there's some sort of racist attack, there's some type of white supremacy thing that they claim that people are doing, and that therefore justifies their desire to do something they're not supposed to be doing in the first place. I always find that interesting. We saw this with the sticker, what I'm referring to as the sticker wars, right? They put up the huge banner that says Newburgh rejects white supremacy, or whatever it did. Nazis make bad neighbors. I'm sorry. They put up a banner next to City Hall after Bill Russiker was elected as mayor, like literally the next day. Newburgh rejects Nazis make bad neighbors. I'm sorry, I'm getting all over the place. I'm trying to keep track of all their stupid slogans. And then they started putting up stickers that said Newburgh rejects white supremacy and all this other stuff. And it's like, what white supremacy? What Nazis? Who are they referring to, right? And then all of a sudden, we've got a couple people, like less than 5 people, covered head to toe, hiding their faces, which is actually kind of unusual about extremist groups on the far right side of things. They usually do want people to know who they are, and are kind of open about who they are. It's like the exact opposite of Antifa in many regards. These people who are covering their faces are like putting up banners by the highway or something. It's just kind of strange behavior. And what I find really interesting about it is they're constantly tagging me on Twitter, right? I got this little group, Rose City Nationalists or something like that. And they're tagging me in posts with that they're having these little public arguments with progressive Yamhill people who for some fucking reason are tagging me in it. And to be honest, I don't even know why they're tagging me in it, because I have nothing to do with any of it. And then I learned recently that Hollamon has been running around claiming that I have been sharing her information with these supposed, Nazi groups, which is not true. I put the information out on the internet, so I'm not directly sharing it to anybody, really, other than people that I know who follow my newspaper. Political affiliations of them, I'm pretty sure, are not. Because if you actually bother to read my newspaper, which Hollamon clearly has not, I have said many times that I am in favor of the common humanity approach to race relations, which means treating people by their own merits and not judging people by things like skin color or ethnicity or disability or things of that nature, right? Like education level, wealth levels. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very centrist political person, and I don't even believe that races are a real thing. Okay, ethnic groups, sure, in the sense of like some family lineages, but the idea that there's these inherent moral characteristics associated with race, that's an outlandish and purely unscientific claim. The point here is, whenever they get backed into a corner, whenever things don't go the way that they really want them to go, the first thing they do is accuse other people of being a racist. Okay? And this is what Hollamon is continuing to do, because they thought that they really had me. They were going to get this deputy to arrest me or cite me for court, something of that nature. And then they were going to say, Kerry's broken the laws, Kerry's been arrested, Kerry's going to jail. They're almost certainly going to do that. My personal belief is that there was definitely a desire to hold me in a cell while the Newburgh City Council elections were going on. I have a personal belief that was part of the intent, which failed. I put out some articles anyway about the election, and the results are what they are. Unfortunately for Miss Hollamon, I have many other articles I have been working on for many months about her activities, which is probably why she's so frustrated at me. She attempted and failed to try to, put on her little fake act of, I just want to be your friend. I just want to get along with everybody. I'm not even a member of Progressive Yamhill anymore. Ooh, which was all nonsense, in my opinion. And I think that demonstrated by her behavior now clearly was nonsense. The reality is, and I'll be showing evidence of this, the Progressive Yamhill people in Newburgh have engaged in not just a conspiracy to deceive voters, not just a conspiracy to harass conservative politicians and regular voters who say things and do things that they don't like. They haven't just used the school system as a way to try to indoctrinate children into fringe pseudoscientific ideologies purely so that when those kids will grow up, they will vote Democrat. On top of all this, they're also engaging in fraud with some of the companies, the nonprofit groups that they're operating. And I will be publishing some articles that show this. And just FYI, I've already given some of this information to law enforcement many months in the past. I'm not at liberty to disclose any further regarding any type of investigations that may be going on, but I have definitely sat down with law enforcement specialists in charity fraud, and I have heard directly that they agree with my assessment that charity fraud is occurring. So I will be posting one article about that. A few other ones I may hold on to, give law enforcement a little bit more time to get their investigation together, but I will definitely be posting one of them, hopefully later this week. So, they have lots of, this is their evidence, their evidence that threats are happening is a couple voice messages that somebody left. If somebody really did threaten, I hope that law enforcement finds them. It should be completely traceable. I'm happy to tell law enforcement even how to trace a phone call back to its originator if they're not sure how to do it. I'm actually pretty good at that type of stuff. I understand communications pretty well, given that I've worked in digital media pretty much my entire adult life, since leaving the military almost 20 years ago. So I'm happy to assist law enforcement with revealing the identities of whoever has been leaving threatening messages for Elise Hollamon. Happy to do that. And I hope that the identities are discovered, because I am skeptical. I'm very skeptical that these messages are real. I just am. And it's because I can't believe anything that they say at face value, because they have shown themselves to be pathological liars who cry wolf all the time, who lie, who engage in fraud for their own personal benefits. And I just don't believe them. I just don't believe anybody who's associated with that group. So I'll be posting more evidence of what I'm talking about regarding charity fraud later. So this video should be long enough. I will see you in the next one.